Attack on Monero headlines the crypto media, the price plummeted and a dubious developer claims to be in control. Sergey Ivancheglo with his project called Qubic. The controversial crypto developer, whose go by the pseudonym Come From Beyond, has already caused a stir in the past, once with his failed cryptocurrency NXT from 2013 and most recently with IOTA and the associated insider trading and scams. With Qubic, he is now attempting his next PR stunt by trying to train not only AI and mine Qubic tokens, but also Monero, under the name of useful proof of work. On 12th August, he claimed that his network had successfully carried out a 51% attack on Monero. In reality, Qubic is pursuing a selfish mining strategy in which they hold back blocks found during mining for a while and then publish them in a small series. This allowed them to reorganize up to 19 blocks at once through luck and a random process of mining. According to the independent studies, the real share of hash rate is 25 to 37%, not more. Selfish mining can work from as little as 33%. I explain what this is all about in this video, so welcome to Berggold Digital. Let's get started. The basics. What is Qubic? Qubic aims to be a blockchain that, according to its own statements, trains and operates a fully decentralized AI model called AI-Graph. Instead of using it as proof of work to perform otherwise worthless hash calculations, the CPU hardware is also used to mine Monero and train the AI. The AI can already be tested on X under the handle @NAA-Graph, but most of the time the answer is just a dot. Answers such as 2 plus 2 are then answered with -123. So it's not entirely without reason that the online community is mocking the incompetence of the much touted AGI. Yes, instead of a cheerful chatbot like ChatGPT, Qubic promises to develop the first basic intelligence. Who is CFB? Sergey Ivancheglo, who goes by the online name Come From Beyond or short CFB, is a Belarusian programmer who's entered the crypto world before 2012. A separate video will follow on his background as his CV and involvements in scams, insider trading, business damaging practices, and so extends that are worth examining them in more detail. A pattern emerges of setting up projects or later hyping them up and then abandoning them. Sounds for me like an exit scam strategy. But for this video, let's stick to the Ivancheglo of today. In his public X postings, he uses black rhetoric and manipulative methods to make his followers believe that his project gives him dominance over Monero and that only his goodwill ensures that nothing bad happens. This is also fundamentally important for Qubic's success, as he addressing miners. They find themselves in an uncertain environment in which they must decide. Should they join Qubic and mine for the project Monero, which should pay them better in the short term, or continue mining as before with lower short-term earnings, but thereby protecting the pillars of decentralization? Because for Monero, independence is vital for survival. It is clear that Qubic's and CFB's approaches are highly risky. Instead of proceeding cautiously, he is pushing ahead with his project and accepting his own losses in the process. Is CFB perhaps under enormous pressure to deliver, both in terms of time and performance? Who might his creditors be? Cracks in the facade. It is striking that using CPUs to run an AI is not the best option, considering that these systems now use GPUs or NPUs for completely different types of processors that can handle these tasks orders of magnitude better. But only CPUs can be used to mine Monero. The mined Monero is immediately sold by Qubic and Qubic tokens are bought. This reminds economists of support purchases and price maintenance by stock-listed corporates and banks. Qubic produces a useful product, Monero, sell it and use the earnings to buy Qubic, which is supposed to strengthen the Qubic price. However, the trick does not seem to be working quite as planned, as can be seen from the Qubic price. This strategy also reveals the central sticking point as to why Qubic can never achieve 51% without harming itself. It is dependent on Monero even if it claims the opposite. It cannot and must not disrupt the network. Instead, it must behave like a normal miner. If they were to destroy trust in Monero, their proof of work would no longer be useful if the Monero price plummeted. Ultimately, the project and the operation of their hardware also cost money, and all of this must be profitable. Then there is this wavy pattern. Qubic does not mine Monero continuously. On their own website, they show that they mine Monero intensively for a while and then stop again. The entire computing power is then available for other processes, probably their AI training. This is striking because the primary benefit of providing all the computing power for Monero is that the selfish mining strategy delivers greater returns, which also generates more media attention. The weakness of this approach is that the 51% attack could never be carried out in this way, as it would have to be carried out continuously, not just for a few hours. So the motive is clear. They are seeking media attention and want to maximize profits with their available resources, regardless of the consequences. Sustainability looks way different, and perhaps time is of the essence. The shock of the 14th September. I wanted to shot this video on 13th September, but things turned out differently. Shortly before filming the video, I took another look at the current block reorgs and could hardly believe my eyes. A few minutes earlier, 18 blocks of the honest chain had been discarded, deleted, and 19 other blocks were imported. Wow, so Qubic managed to overwrite more than 10 blocks, invalidating 118 payments. How is this even possible? Every payment contains a ring signature that includes random other coins that are already in the blockchain. The consensus rule says that these coins cannot come from the latest 10 blocks, they have to be older. So, due to the reorg, some payments were now written to newer blocks, within this 10 block limit, invalidating the payments that were based on them. To get a feeling for this role reorganization, it rewrote 36 minutes of the past, leaving only 154 payments valid, or just 56%. However, the economic damage that users may have suffered cannot be really quantified due to the nature of Monero. Perhaps only pennies, perhaps millions, we don't know. Surprisingly, the exchanges reacted enthusiastically, with Monero rising by around 7% after the attack became public, and by as much as 20% in the following days. Perhaps the event had already been priced in by the marketplace. I don't know. Is the end near? At least not for Monero, as the network has coped well with the attackers so far. However, there are several points that suggest Qubic's attacks are coming to an end. First, the business model is based on an economic idea that not work. Put simply, Monero and Tari, another piracy cryptocurrency, are created, both are sold, and the proceeds are used to buy back Qubic tokens. This is intended to increase price pressure and lift the price up for Qubic, but it's failing. So, second, another portion of new Qubic tokens is used to reward miners. Qubic has halving events that halve the issuance of new Qubic coins, thus also halving the miners' income while their costs remain the same. This strategy can only work if the price continues to rise. However, the opposite is true for Qubic. The demand is simply too low. The last halving was on 20 August 2025, with the next one coming in a year. It is becoming less and less profitable to mine Monero with Qubic. The advertising promise to miners has failed, so Monero miners will switch back to their previous pools in the Monero ecosystem. 3. Qubic's hash rate has noticeably decreased from 2.4 to 1.6 gigahashes, and the aggressiveness with which blocks were rejected has almost disappeared. What are the media saying about Qubic and Monero? Cointelegraph and CoinDesk, lacking their own journalistic diligence, uncritically accept CFB's claims from August that Qubic had successfully attacked Monero with a 51% attack and reorganized many blocks. Experts, such as the Riot Institute in Austria, the Monero Research Lab, and Shai Wyborski, himself a crypto developer for Casper, another cryptocurrency, BitMEX Research and the blog independently came to the conclusion that Qubic never reached 51%, but that they were indeed able to undermine the profits of other miners in short term with their selfish mining strategy. However, the functioning of the network was never permanently negatively affected at any time. According to their investigations, Qubic's real share of the hash rate is somewhat around 25 to 37%. My conclusion. Finally, we can see that theoretical constructs around 51% on selfish mining in practice and can seek real solutions for these problems. There was the biggest reorganization in Monero's history, which even exceeds the 10-block limit and thus invalidate 118 payments. Since then, however, things have been quiet around Qubic. Only time will tell whether this is the calm before a new storm or actual its swan song. Monero has proven that it is not perfect and that it is not only technology but also social and economic aspects that contribute to the success or failure of cryptocurrencies. Contrary to claims, the majority attack was never successful in the long term, and that is what defines it. What we really saw was a forced selfish mining strategy. The Monero network continues to function smoothly. Payments are processed as usual, cheaply, quickly, and above all, confidentially. Qubic is trying to capitalize on this media presence and slow down the ongoing decline in the value of its own coin, but failing. So furthermore, Qubic's claims cannot be independently verified, and it is doubtful whether Qubic's aggressive behavior contributes to its success. For my part, I would argue that selfishness in the cryptocurrencies is doomed to fail in the medium term at the latest. Economic and game theory fundamentals, as well as people's cooperative nature, simply prevents this from happening. Those who do not want to participate fairly in a collaborative economy will be punished sooner or later. I believe that Qubic will go down in history as an insignificant project, perhaps even scam, because 2 + 2 = 4. Cheers.